Good morning or afternoon, everyone, depending on what time zone you are in. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I am the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. We're going to be talking today about the BNI Connect member tools and reports. So what we're going to be doing is going just beyond this home screen here and into some of the other areas of BNI Connect in order to show you some of the other things that you can do, such as sending visitor invitations and registering visitors and all the different reports for being able to look up visitors, looking up all of your personal statistics, as well as some other useful tools that are in the system. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started today, and that is that this is a live webinar. If you have any questions at all as we're going through the content today, please do feel free to ask those questions. The best way to ask questions is to type your question in to the question panel. That will pop up on my screen, and I'll be able to answer those questions as we're going through the material today. If for some reason it's completely unrelated to what we're going over, that is absolutely fine. I love answering all questions, but we will have plenty of time to the end to go over anything else that you might like to talk about in BNI Connect. We are scheduled for approximately 30 minutes worth of content today. I do like to try to wrap up the content portion by about 3:30, well, Eastern time, about the bottom of the hour, to get people back to their everyday jobs and lives. Keep on track with your busy schedules. That being said, I am always happy to stay on these calls personally until all questions are answered, or if there's anything else that you'd like to learn or talk about. All of our sessions are recorded. You can find those recordings in a couple of different places. You can find them on the support site. The best way to get to the support site is if you look in the upper right-hand corner of BNI Connect, right under where it says your name and regional website, there's a little question mark in a white circle here. Click that question mark. That will take you to the support site. You'll see our list of upcoming webinars. And if you scroll down just a little bit to chapter training and documentation, you will see recorded webinars. And you can see I've already started an article for this month, March 2015. They'll have the links to the recordings. You can watch them right here or go to the YouTube site as well. The YouTube site, if you'd like to browse directly there, is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. And if you subscribe to the site, you will also get notifications whenever new videos are uploaded. There's tons of content, by the way, up on the Connect site, on the YouTube site. We also have dozen or so educational moments, short little 3 to 5 minute videos, as well as, of course, all of the recorded webinars and some other things like special messages from Dr. Meisner, some release demonstrations, and things like that. So please do join us up here on our YouTube channel as well. All right, let's get into the content for today. And again, that is the BNI Connect member tools and reports. Now, I did say we are going to be digging beyond the home screen today to look at some of the deeper menus, but one thing that I wanted to show you guys real quick before we go beyond the home screen is that there are some very important things to keep in mind right here that you may or may not have noticed before. Of course, we do have all of our statistics here over the last 12 months in our lifetime, but there's also a great little hidden report here called the My Personal Participation Report. And if you click on this link here, what this does is it gives you a week-by-week history of your membership. So whereas this is really just a cumulative total for the last 12 months in your lifetime, the My Personal Participation Report will give you week by week by week what the PALMS report statistics were for your particular activity. So it will go back 1 year by default. So in looking through this, I can see, which weeks did I give and receive referrals? When was I thanked for business? How many CEUs did I have? This is especially helpful if you've ever thought that there was an error. Maybe you got a control letter saying that you were absent 2 times or 3 times. This would be the easiest way to check that information is through this personal PALMS report, the personal participation report. Here you can look through and you can look for the absent by week. And I can look back and I can see that, yes, I was absent a few weeks ago. Is that correct? And I was not in the meeting a couple of weeks ago. I ended up calling my substitute and finding out that they didn't show up. So it was correctly marked as an absent. But if it was incorrect, I could have gone back to my vice president and said, I think that there's an error here, and even been able to show her exactly which week the error was on. Now, the other important thing is that if we scroll down a little bit on this report, is that this will also show us our attendance history over the past year, and we can also see how many members we've sponsored and any training information. So any of the trainings that we've attended in the last year will be listed here as well. Of course, as with just about all reports in BNI Connect, you can print these and you can also export them to Excel. Another thing on the home page, again, right before we go past it, is that you can go in and review any of the slips. Now, these become very powerful reports from an analytical standpoint. For example, do you know who your best referral source is? Do you know who you are submitting the most thank you for closed business slips for? That's going to be the person that's generating the most money for your business. If you want to figure that out, make sure that you go into your review my thank you for closed business slips. Of course, you can go in and you can change this for any date range you'd like. Let's say I want to go back all the way till 2012. And let's take a look. And just by looking at this report, I can sort this by name and maybe see who's the most frequent thank you for closed business that I'm thanking people for. But then if I also sort this by amount, let me sort it again so it's highest to lowest. I can take a look and see who my highest referral sources are from a dollar figure standpoint. And that can be pretty surprising sometimes when you take a minute to look through the information here. And the same is true for things like the one-to-one slips. You may want to review this periodically, and this will help you to strategize who to do one-to-ones with. So if you look across your one-to-ones and you say, I don't see, the people in my referral team and my contact sphere, I don't seem to have a lot of one-to-ones with them recently. I really need to get on the ball and maybe set up a meeting with them based on my history of one-to-ones here. All right, now we do need to go past this home screen here, and there's a couple of different places that I'd like to show you. The first of which is that you'll notice on the left is we have these navigation bars. So you have My Business and then My Network, and you have Chapter. If I click on My Network, this will bring me into the social media components. Now, we have a whole webinar dedicated just to the social media components, but the important tool that's located here besides that is this right here on the right-hand side, and that is the Documents section. Now, what the documents are over here are documents that your region, so your executive director or your director consultants, your regional admins, these are files that they've uploaded that are of good use for you in your particular region. So if I click on the More button here, what this will show me is all of the documents that I might need in my position in my region. For example, if I need the visitor sign-in sheet, if I'm the visitor host, that may be up here for me. Or the bio sheet, if I need a blank bio sheet before one of my 10-minute presentations at my chapter. So all of this is available here. You can browse through them page by page. You can also increase the number of entries that you're viewing. And there's even a little search box here. So if, let's say, I wanted to do a search for contact spheres, I could just put in sphere, and it will filter this list for me. And here I have a contact sphere worksheet. I can download it, and then I can use this contact sphere worksheet when I'm inviting people for our Visitors Day. Now, keep in mind that this is a regional tool, so the documents that you will see in your documents section may be different than the documents I see in my region. All right, if I click back on the Home button, the other useful tool in here is that there is your list of events. So if you click the More button here, this will show you all of the available training events opportunities within your region. A lot of times your directors will also list things like networking events that might be in your area, especially those hosted by BNI, and you can go through and register for any of these events by using the events tile. For example, if I wanted to go to the new member mixer, I could click on the link for that. It will take me into the details. And when I'm ready, I can register for this event. All right, let me go back to the home screen now. Now, to get back to the referrals and everything, I make sure I click on the My BNI Business here. Now, in order to get to some of the other tools, we do have to go into these menus along the top here. We have Network, Operations, Reports, Tools, and Admin. Now, depending on what your level is in BNI, whether you are a president or a vice president or a member or a director consultant or an ambassador, you may see some or all of these various options. Now, a lot of people say to me, I'm not really sure where to find stuff and where to go in BNI Connect. The way that I always remember where stuff is in BNI Connect is under these menus, network is all of the social media components. So that's the groups, the connections. It's also what is on most of this My Network page is the stuff that's in this network drop-down as well. Now, the next two places that you're going to go to most often is operations and reports. Very few people have the need to go into tools and admin very often, or for that matter, even see those options. Operations is always where you're going to find input tools or day-to-day operations or management of your chapter or your membership. Reports are always going to be read only. So you'll never be able to do any input or use any tools under reports. So if it's not a read only or a statistical report, you're better off looking for it under operations. So let's take a look under the operations menu. And there's only a couple of things that I'm going to show you under here that I find to be very, very helpful. Now, the first thing I wanted to show you under here is you'll see that on the left-hand side you have a bunch of different options. One of the options is down here. It's called Create Email. And the Create Email tool is really helpful in a couple of different ways. There's three different options here. Email my chapter, email visitor invitation, and email chapter visitors. Now this first one, email my chapter, if you've ever needed to send a message to your entire group, let's say that you're the events coordinator for your group and you need to remind people of an upcoming network event, something along those lines. Before BNI Connect, I always used to have to go in, maybe find the last message that was sent to our group, and then hit reply all. And it never fails. It either doesn't include somebody that just joined a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it includes people that had left the chapter at some time before I needed to send that message. What this function does is it gives you the most recent copy of a distribution list for your chapter. So all you need to do is to highlight these, copy them, and paste them into your own email program. Now, I happen to use Microsoft Outlook, so I would open this up. I'd put them all, of course, into the BCC field, and then I could type my message out and hit send. That way I'm sure my message is going to all of the right people. Now, the second thing under Create Email here is Email Visitor Invitation, and I love this tool. This tool is great for helping you to invite people to come and visit your chapter. Now, why I like this tool a lot is that it makes it a very professional and branded BNI invitation. It also takes the guesswork out of, well, what do I say to this visitor? You also don't have to look up, like, for example, your address location, because it includes all of those details automatically because it's pulling a lot of information directly from BNI Connect. So the way this works is I would click on Email Visitor Invitation. And I am presented with a number of fields to fill out, kind of like a BNI Mad Libs here. What it's going to do is it's going to take these different fields and insert them into this template that we have on the back end and immediately send out that invitation letter. So let's say that I wanted to invite Karen Gallagher to my meeting, and she's from Gallagher and Company. And the email address, you know what? I'm going to put my own email address in here so that you guys can see what this looks like. And you're welcome to try the same thing. Just go in, create a fake invitation, just send it to yourself so you can see what the email message looks like. The personal message is going to be the first paragraph of the email that gets sent out. So you want this to make it definitely sound like it's coming from a real human, because it is. It's coming from you. So go ahead and put a good personal message in. So I'm going to put in something like, maybe it was great meeting you at the business after hours event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. Now, this is appropriate. Usually you would send this out maybe after you actually meet somebody at an event. And what it does is it helps to solidify that verbal invitation with a more solid email invitation. So I'm going to go ahead and click send. Now, this does send out the invitation immediately. So I will get this. I just got this in my email, and here it is. You can see it has a nice BNI graphic at the top, so it's a nice branded image. It puts in her name, so I did Dear Karen, and I said, great meeting you at the Business After Hours event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. The rest of this is part of the template. So it says that she's cordially invited to the meeting of the BNI Wakefield chapter. That's my chapter. I am still a member. I'm a member here in the Rhode Island region. This is where we meet. We meet at the Elks Club, and we're located at 60 Belmont Ave. So all of this information, it automatically takes from BNI Connect from my chapter, and it inserts it right into this message for me. It then briefly explains what BNI is about. So we don't have to come up with the words to explain BNI, or in some cases, over-explain BNI. It lets them know that I'm looking for somebody in their profession and to please RSVP with me. If they hit reply, this message will go back to me as the sender. So it's not going to go disappear into BNI Connect somewhere. It goes directly back to your email address as the person that sent the invitation. Now, once somebody has said, yes, I do want to come to the meeting, a great thing to do is to register them for an upcoming meeting. And we can do that, again, under the operations menu. It brought us right over to manage visitors. And when they say yes, you may want to register a prospective visitor before a meeting, so for an upcoming meeting. And this is as easy as just filling out the form with their name and their details. And the great thing about this is that what it's going to do is to send them a confirmation. So this is when they've said, yes, I want to come to the meeting. So we'll send them a confirmation saying you are now registered for my meeting, because I'm sure it's never happened to any of you that you invite somebody and they don't show up. And a lot of times that's because our meetings tend to be pretty early in the morning and they may have something else going on. So the best thing to do is to confirm that. It will then register them. It'll also send them a reminder 2 days before the meeting, and it will also notify your leadership team, your visitor host, and your director consultant that there is a visitor coming, and give them the opportunity to even follow up with them before the meeting. Now, under the operations, there's a bunch of other tools that are designed more for the leadership team, such as a goals program and the ability to add speakers and mentors and things like that. But what I want to do is get more into some of the reports that are available to us as members. And I feel that these really enhance your membership. So the way to get to reports and out of the operations is I'm going to go to Reports, and then the chapter level reports. Now, if you get here, you'll notice that there are a ton of reports. There's a whole list of reports here, all that give us a different set of information. In the next 9 minutes, there's no way I'm going to get through all of those reports. I just wanted to highlight a couple of my favorite ones, but you are welcome to go in at any time and go through and just start clicking through and taking a look at some of these reports. You really can't break the reports, so please feel free to click around and test them out. So one of the first reports that are listed here is the chapter roster report. Now this one's pretty straightforward and obvious. But the important thing that I wanted to show you in here is that aside from it being just a traditional roster, which has all of the names and the classifications and the company names and the phone numbers and a little brief version of the POMS report, what's important here as well is that up at the top it shows you who's in all of the leadership positions in your chapter. So if you have a good idea for the educational coordinator, you're not sure who it is, it gives you their information here and their contact information. If you need to talk to your director and you don't know what their phone number is, you can always go in here and find that information there as well. And of course, it does give you a little membership count too if you're curious how many members are currently in your chapter. Now, the next report I wanted to show you is, it seems like it's a really, really simple report, but it has some pretty big implications. And that is called the Meeting Notes Report. It's a couple of reports down on the list. The Meeting Notes Report, if I click Go, is similar to the chapter roster, except all it's going to give me is the member's name, their company name, and then a blank area. And what this report is really designed for is it's designed to be printed. Now you can print it in either landscape mode or portrait mode. And again, it's designed to print out so that you can have it in front of you at the meeting and you can physically take notes. And that's really important to do, regardless of whether you print this report out, if your chapter does one separately, because it will help you to give more referrals. The best thing you can do during the meeting is to make sure that you're listening, that you're paying attention to what other people are asking for. And this report is so that you can go in and you can write down either something to jog your memory about what they're asking for, or maybe if they asked for a specific referral, like somebody's name or somebody's company name, you could write that down and be able to refer back to it later. And to be completely honest, even if you throw it out at the end of the meeting or you leave it on the front seat of your car or you put it in your front shirt pocket and it goes through the wash a couple of times, just the act of writing the information down will help to get it ingrained in your mind so that as you're going through your week, you can recall this information and, again, be able to refer your partners even better. This report is also a great candidate for exporting. And as I said before, you'll notice that just about every report has a couple of options in the upper right-hand corner. We have print, export, and export without headers. Now, print is pretty obvious. It just sends it out to the printer. The export and the export without headers, what that means is export without headers means it will not include all of this stuff up at the top, so all the parameters of the report. Most of the time, you don't need this information at the top. What it's going to end up doing is just pushing all the columns in weird directions and making merged cells and things like that in Excel. So most of the time, I like to choose the export without headers, so it does not include that information. I can then open up Microsoft Excel or whatever program you might happen to use. And again, this is a great report for exporting because just the printed report, you may not like the layout of it. So I find that this one's helpful to be able to maybe say, you know what? I want this notes field over here to be much, much bigger. I also would like to kind of make it deeper here. Maybe I even want to do some like color coding. By the way, one of my favorite buttons in Microsoft Excel is this button right here that says Format as Table. This gives you some nice color schemes and stuff like that. You can very quickly turn this into a nice sortable table that you can now sort this by first name or last name, however you'd like to do it. Maybe you want to do it by company name. And now I have full control and I can really make this how I want it to look as opposed to just being forced to print it the way it was. Of course, the next report is the Summary Palms report. This is the bread and butter of your chapter statistics anyway. And although it's just going to show you the last completed 6 months, of course you can always go through and pull this for any time period you want to. I mean, I can go back to 1995, even though I don't think we were a chapter then. My other option is I can include or exclude dropped members. By default, it's going to just show me the members that are currently members in the chapter, although the totals will include everybody's contribution. Once I click this, I can now look at my statistics for my chapter over the last 10 years or so and have a look at those numbers. I'm going to go down a couple more reports here and look at the classifications not in chapter report. Now this is again, a seemingly simple report, but it is a great report, especially around this time of year when a lot of chapters are having visitors' days. What this report tells us is the categories that we do not have filled in our chapter right now, but more importantly, which of those categories are really popular in my area. So for example, I can attest to the fact that we do not have somebody in remodeling right now. We do not have a plumber. We do not have a business attorney. Yet 6 other chapters in my region, there's 18 chapters in our region altogether, and there's 6 other chapters in my region that have these categories filled. And that tells me a couple of things, that A, it is a popular category, and I can point to the successes of those other people when I might happen to be talking to a plumber or a somebody that's in remodeling or a business attorney. I can say, yeah, it's a pretty popular category in our region. They must be doing pretty well. The other thing that's good about it is that we're not competing with those other chapters. If we go into some of the more obscure categories, I'm going to go all the way down here. We have, let's see, somebody that sells batteries, and we have health and safety consulting and metal plaques and power washing. These categories, because they're not filled in more chapters in my region, means that they can pretty much apply at any chapter, whereas the more popular categories, we're not competing against those chapters. And of course, this is also just a good report. There's like 500 categories listed here. It's just a good report for reminding us of all the different professions that are out there. So when you're thinking about inviting somebody to your chapter and you kind of run out of ideas, you can take a look at this list and generate some ideas. Now, there's a ton of other reports in here, such as the member details report, which allows you to do a gains exchange with somebody from your chapter before you go to a one-to-one with them, so you can look up their bio or their gains profile or any of this information about them. I would just choose the person from my chapter, for example, and I could look up their gains profile. I could even print it out, or if I want to look up my own, I could copy and paste it into an email or export it or print it and send that to my one-to-one partner before I meet with them. There's also the visitor registration report and the length of membership report and the chapter traffic lights. All of these reports in the system, I encourage you to go in and click through them and have a look at them to see what you can see about yourself, your membership, your chapter, and even your region. Now we are at the bottom of the hour. There's just one final little tidbit that I wanted to show you before we close this. And if I go back to the home screen, On these menus on the left, we had the My BNI Business. I showed you My Network. Now the next thing here is Chapter. And what this is a special shortcut menu for you. Once you start finding your favorite reports and your favorite activities in the system, you can go through and customize this list to whatever you want it to be. And that way now I have one-click access. So I'm on My BNI Business. I can click on Chapter. And immediately I can click on Email My Chapter. So I don't have to go to Operations, Chapter, Create Email, Email My Chapter. Now it's only 1 or 2 clicks away. And you can customize this by clicking on Configure. All of the things on the left are the things in my list. All the things on the right are inactive on my list. So let's say that I just wanted to add a couple of things. I'm going to add the Personal Palms report, and I'm going to email chapter visitors, for example. Let's say I want this Personal Palms report at the top. I'm going to just move it up at the top. And this visitor invitation I want up at the top. And maybe I'm going to move the speaker report down to the bottom. I can then submit that. And when I close out of this and go back to my home screen, it'll refresh, and it now has my favorite applications in my own customized order. So, all right, we are at the bottom of the hour. So what I'd like to do is now open this up for questions. Now, if you have any questions, I would love to entertain those and answer those now. For those of you that do need to leave right away, before the questions are all completed, I'd like to thank you for being here today and for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend a half hour with me. I also remind you to please, in BNI Connect, click on My BNI Business and click on Submit CEU Slip. And make sure that you give yourself 1 CEU for today's webinar. All right, questions. So while you're typing in your questions, just a couple of other reminders. This is being recorded. It'll be available on the support site. Just click the question mark. You can also go to youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. And of course, I would love it if you gave us a like. Facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. We do tons of stuff up here as well, such as webinar reminders and tips and tricks and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook. So please do give us a like there. All right, we have a question. Lori asks, how soon as this is over will this webinar be posted right away so I can share it with the chapter? Lori, it usually takes me at least a couple of hours because I have to convert it out of the GoToWebinar format and into the YouTube format and then upload it and do all the descriptions and publish it. Usually it's available within a day or so. I can try to rush this one knowing that you want to get it off to the chapter. But also know that there are, for example, last month's copy of this is already in there under the February webinars. So you do have that one if you need to get it out immediately. Otherwise, it should be up by tomorrow. Let's see. Dale says, how long does it take CEU, thank you for closed business, or others online submission to appear in the personal report? So after you submit one of these slips, this is just like going to your meeting and handing in a piece of paper. So it will appear in your business report and in the Palms and all of the other things after your next meeting has taken place and your vice president has submitted that official report. So submitting a slip here basically puts it into the virtual basket, so to speak, or the virtual collection for this upcoming week's meeting. Does that make sense, Dale? Excellent. What other questions? I love questions. I do BNI Connect support all day, every day, and it's great to answer live questions as opposed to emails. So any other questions that you guys have, I'd be happy to answer them. All right. If there's no additional questions, again, I want to say thank you guys so much for being here with me today. A good referral for me, by the way, is to please Click on the question mark, take a look at our upcoming webinar schedule, and please recommend a webinar to your fellow chapter members or somebody that you might know. Our very next webinar is going to be the chapter web pages. So this is going to be for you. You may or may not know this, but you do have a chapter website. This is going to be how to update your chapter website. And then after that, we have one on visitors from invitation to follow-up. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific is the 1 p.m. Eastern is the chapter web pages, and next Thursday is the visitors, and that's going to be at 11 a.m. Pacific. Let's see, Ricky says, what CEU do we give ourselves a point on? As long as it's a 1-point CEU, but usually I use the second option down, which is the BNI webinar. So the 5 podcasts or BNI webinar. All right, everyone. I think that was the last question. So thank you guys so much for being here, and have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Happy connecting.